Welcome again to another edition of the Heavy Hitters Podcast, where we seek to talk to interesting and influential people throughout the tri-state or otherwise. I am Rocky Boyman, and the Mount Rushmore of Cincinnati food staples would be La Rosa's Pizza, Skyline Chili, Montgomery and Ribs, and Graeter's Ice Cream. So we are pleased to be joined today by Chip Graeter of the Graeter's family. Chip, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Thanks, Rocky. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
So first, let me start there first. If your last name is Graeter and you grew up in Cincinnati, is it at a young age you're going into the ice cream biz or what?
Well, my parents were incredible. I mean, my dad was never pressured me. You know, I think he probably would have rather have me not gone into the business.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. My aunt and uncle were the ones that really kind of pressured me into joining the business when I got out of college and worked a little bit, and then they were like, "Hey, it's time to come back." But yeah. So when I was a kid, I think growing up when I was a kid, I mean, Graeter's was. We were always very fortunate to have a huge following in Cincinnati,
right,
but it wasn't nearly as known back then as it in the 60s and 70s. It wasn't nearly as, it was just another great ice cream company in Cincinnati, right. And we had Aglomisi's, and we had, of course, UDF, and so I wasn't known really.
So you're the reason why it's gone super big, right?
Absolutely.
See, that's
the sole reason.
There you go.
For sure.
See, that's radio rule number one. You always take credit. And we'll get into that, though. But, I mean, just reading up on Graeter's, I guess you guys were started in 1870. Is that correct?
Yeah, incredible. My great-grandfather.
That's 5 years after the Civil War.
Unbelievable. I know. I always try to put myself back in there saying what it was like to come to Cincinnati. So he grew up in Indiana. He was German immigrants, grew up in Indiana. And, he was hated farm life. And this is just the story goes, at least.
Mm-hmm.
He couldn't wait to get to big town, came to Cincinnati. And he just had a push cart, really. He'd make ice cream, and he had some ice, and he sold ice creams. They were called penny licks, and it was kind of crazy. But you would, I'd give you a dish, you'd lick it off the dish, and I think even back then they did. I don't know if they even cleaned it in between.
Of course
customers.
they did.
I mean, it's crazy. And he also sold oysters. The combination of ice was, ice cream and oysters.
Ice? So you get oysters and ice cream. Now, there's a combo right there.
Terrible. Huh?
So, but to your point, I mean, 1870, there's no refrigeration.
Absolutely.
So you're keeping things stored cold with, an ice closet, that kind of thing?
Yeah. So I think he'd make it in the morning and sell it until he sold out. And, he had just enough ice. And so it was just a day, hand-to-mouth kind of operation. And so he slowly started to grow a little bit, and he got married, and he then tragically died in a streetcar accident in like 1919.
Streetcar, like a streetcar?
Like a streetcar, I think. Supposedly he got off of a streetcar and was hit by a car, I think, and he died at the hospital or something. I don't know. That's what I heard, and so he died, and he left my great grandmother with 2 kids and a business, and she really, is the guiding. She was the guiding force. Right. I mean, at that point in time, the early 1920s, women couldn't vote. I mean, she was incredible. She was known as the boss. My dad said she was known as the boss, but she, she expanded our store footprint. Mm-hmm. She continued with dedicating herself to making sure it was still made the same way. Didn't take shortcuts, because again, as her period came on in the 40s, and people started mass producing ice cream. And it was, that was the way to go. I mean, maybe we should have done that. Maybe we'd have been UDF. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I mean,
profits,
not this,
right.
not as little podunk guys we are. But it's, we are very, really thankful that she continued that. And my father's generation did the same thing. They were dedicated to making it the same way, and so.
No, this is your great-grandmother, you said.
My great-grandmother,
Did you ever meet her? Or?
No, she died in 1955.
Okay, wow. Okay, so she took it. Now, early on, do you know what the old ice cream making process is? I read something about French pots or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's like when I was growing up, we had these French pots. We had 6 of them.
What is a French pot?
It's a big copper pot or stainless steel. It has a shaft that goes down from the middle right to the bottom, and it's and it spins around.
Okay.
There's a motor on top, and that pot spins around on that shaft in a bath of salt water. We call it brine. It's just calcium chloride and water, and so it's very cold. It's below zero, but it's a liquid, so it's a slushy liquid. And so you pour your cream. We make up an egg custard. Graeter's is famous because it's very dense. It has very little air in it. So the way that we make it, you pour the ice cream into the French pot, and you take a paddle and you work that paddle up the sides of that French pot. And my whole life, that's how it was up until, I don't know, in the 2000s. We took an Italian gelato machine and we retrofitted it to make it a French pot. And so we still make it 2 gallons at a time. It's just like we always have done. But we couldn't get those old time machines anymore. They were a bigger French pot.
No one was making them anymore. Parts.
Exactly.
Right.
So we had to find a new, better way, something that we could mass produce. Because now we have like 42 machines in our factory making 2 gallons at a time. It's still very hand to mouth. It's still, we just have a lot more machines and a lot more guys making the ice cream, but It's still made the exact same way. Really, my great-grandmother made it. No different.
Now, what is gelato? I've always wanted. I've tasted. I know it's different. What makes it gelato versus regular ice cream?
Well, gelato just has less fat in it. It's usually 25% less fat. Maybe it's not quite as rich as ice cream. Usually, it's usually fantastic. If you've gone to Italy, it's incredible. It's everywhere, and it's fresh and delicious.
Gotcha. Okay. And you guys also make like your chocolate and your chocolate chips in a unique way. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we've always, we use the finest chocolate you can buy. It's just a really good Peter's chocolate is called, and so we melt that down. It comes in a huge box of 180 big bars, 10-pound bars.
Oh God!
So
that's a kid's dream, right
there. It is.
There.
It's incredible. So we
should sell those.
We kind of do in our stores. So you pound that up with a hammer and you break it up. And then you put it into a big chocolate warmer, and that melts it all down. And we add soybean oil to it, and just a little bit. We add a little bit of soybean oil to that. So when we pour it, and so when you're making your ice cream, you're making it, and you're about 10, 12 minutes into it. It's become a really good like cake batter consistency. Mm-hmm. You take your paddle and you what you call run the ice cream up the sides of your pot. Mm-hmm. And so the sides of the pot are all covered with ice cream, and then you take your it's a whole I think it's a quart of dark chocolate from most of our flavors, and you slowly pour it into that pot. And so what that chocolate does is it spins around all of that ice cream in it, and it freezes to the sides. And after about 2 to 3 minutes, it's hardened up, and you take your paddle and a blade, and you come down and you break up all that chocolate with your paddle and the blade. And so it goes for about another minute or so. And then you take that paddle and all that ice cream's taken out of that pot by hand and either put into a 56 ouncer like you'd buy a family size, or a big bulk container that we dip out of in the store
or whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
Gotcha. So it's obviously much different than just pouring chocolate chips and.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you don't just put chocolate chips in it. That's why they're unique. Sometimes it's really big, sometimes it's small. So
gotcha.
Yeah.
So go back to your great grandma. She takes everything's over. She's got 2 kids. She's she's going to run this thing. What were some of the, besides her, as you said, being a woman in her 20s and all that, what were some of the challenges she faced in those early days?
Well, I think just getting respect from the business community, probably trying to take out loans or signing leases. She said we still have a couple of stores. Our Ludlow store in Clifton and our Hyde Park store. Mm-hmm. They have she signed. We have leases from when she signed them. So back in the 20s, that was that's pretty cool. I think challenges of expanding. She's the one that really expanded our footprint and realized that they used to make it. It was on East McMillan, and we had they lived upstairs, made it in the back, and sold it out the front of the store on the first floor, and they did that for many years. In the late teens and early 20s, she started to expand, and she was the one that realized that in 1933 she bought a factory, an old printing plant on Reading Road, and she realized that let's make it here and let's deliver from there. So she's the one that really started with the whole, expansion and make it one place and deliver it from where you make it.
Gotcha.
And, so we're still in that factory today. We don't make our ice cream there anymore, but we do all our bakery goods and candy, and we make ice cream cakes and pies and things like
nice.
that there.
Now, were there other like hometown competitors back in those days too?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think there was ice cream shops on every corner.
Because that was like the truth. There wasn't like food wasn't that tasty. It was just kind of. So I imagine. I mean, ice cream was like, holy cow, this is amazing.
Yeah, back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, there was we were, from what I always heard, we were always next to very in close proximity to a movie theater. And that's kind of the date night thing, the ice cream movie, that kind of thing. And I think there were many, many ice cream shops all over the city, and slowly. One by one, they were making ice cream similarly to how we made it, just by hand, and they just kind of just lost the touch, and well, I don't know if there's anybody that makes it really like we do anymore.
That's what makes you guys
Well, it makes us a little bit unique, yeah.
Right? Is there any other, in your opinion? Yeah. I mean, you guys have been around for over 100 years, right? So, I mean, is there any other secrets you would say that have kept you guys going, and throughout the years, year in, year out? Could you boil it down to one thing?
Dedication and hard work.
Yeah.
I mean, my dad and my aunt and my uncle. My aunt's still alive, and she's in the stores every single day. She goes all over the town every day in our stores. She was pretty much my mentor. I started when I started back in the late 80s. She was my boss. Kathy was her name, and she was incredible. And so I think just we've always. Had a commitment. I think you look at it as a generation, okay, it's our time to step up. It's our time to take care of the business, to take care of making sure that we don't screw it up. And I think my parents generation fourth generation did an incredible job. Third generation, did an incredible job of leading that way and showing that every day. I mean, they work 7 days a week. My dad worked 7 days a week, all my life. And to all kind of special, he'd never come to any sporting events, and he was always working. Always working. Wow. He was incredible man. And my aunt's the same way, and my uncle was absolutely the same way. So that generation is incredible, and we've just been lucky enough to not screw it up, and we've been able to expand it and grow and whatnot. And so we'll see what happens in the next generation.
Now, Chip, obviously, you're around that long, you're going to face challenges and just things that sometimes out of your control, and especially in those early days. Was there ever any time period where some cataclysmic event happened, you didn't know if you were going to make it, that sort of thing? Or
I mean, in my generation, I'd say the biggest challenge that we had was just transitioning from Generation 3 to my generation 4. It's been documented fairly well. I mean, we had some real struggles, dividing. How are we going to make it fair to I have a brother and a cousin and myself. How are we going to make it fair between the three of us? Moving on, and this is in the early 2000s. We tried to
family businesses, right?
Absolutely, and it was a real struggle. It was painful. It was an awful period, and we thought we were gonna break it all up. I was gonna take the retail stores. My cousin was gonna take the franchise business. We had a franchise business at that time, and we used a lot of lawyers and psychologists. We used lawyers and accountants, and we finally used a business psychologist to kind of get the three of us aligned and realize that the whole pie was better than a little piece of the pie.
What's a business psychologist do?
His name is Mike Hardings, and he just
try to get inside everyone's head kind of thing,
and try to make you understand and realize that the three of you together is going to be better than you guys all going your separate ways and trying to make it. And that absolutely was true, because we've I think done better than I would have ever imagined. When I started out, we had 12 stores when we started out. Now we have.
This is when you start off. What
89.
1989. You had 12 stores. Now you have what? 56.
We have 56 stores in 9 cities and 5 states. So
5. Now what? Now where is your outreach? How far do we go from Cincinnati?
We have a lot of stores, almost as many stores in Columbus, that area, Dayton.
Okay.
We have 11 stores in Kentucky, between Lexington and Louisville. 3 in Dayton or Indianapolis, 2 in Chicago, 2 in Cleveland, 2 in Pittsburgh. Somehow there's 56 stores there.
Nice.
So, yeah.
How's it work with when you're coming up with the flavors of the ice cream? Is there a guy who comes in, or is there you guys that test the flavors? If you need anybody, I will volunteer as well. Tell us about that process.
Well, it's again, it's like, I mean, we are. We're still a pretty small company, and so we don't we don't do a lot of focus groups, and we have in the past done some, but most of the time it's my brother Bob. He's pretty big foodie. He knows the trends. He's very much into the trends and has a huge range of knowledge of contacts and people in the industry. So he's always looking out for new flavors and new ideas, and we look at what we've made, and thankfully we've been around a long time. We've made a lot of different flavors. We made a lot of crappy flavors. We made some really good ones.
What was the worst flavor ever made in your opinion?
One time he made this Mexican chocolate.
Mexican chocolate.
And it was spicy. It was
spicy chocolate.
It was terrible, I thought. But
But he swore by it. Like,
no,
this
I don't
is
know.
a thing.
It's just something. It's Mexican chocolate's a really popular thing, and I think it has legs. I mean, I think it possibly could. It's just the version he made wasn't. I didn't think it very good. We've made a lot of crappy flavors. I think over the years we've made some incredible ones. Like this summer, we've got a couple. We have these bonus flavors that we call bonus flavors that come out starting Mother's Day, and about every 2 or 3 weeks we bring another one out just in the store, and it's kind of dip, and it's just to see if anybody
like catches on. Yeah.
And so one we have right now is really not even really bonus. It's pralines and cream, but it's we just brought it back. But we have we have one coming out next week or the week after, I think, and it's incredible. Can
you tell us what it is?
It's called Midnight Snack.
Midnight Snack. Okay, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Really?
And it's pretty cool. It's a flavor that has just lots of inclusion: peanut butter cups, pretzel balls.
Yeah, throw it all in there, right?
Yeah, exactly. But we have one later on in the summer. I probably shouldn't talk about because I don't know. Hopefully, it's going to work. But so far, the early renditions were it was incredible. I thought it was the best, one of the best. We've never had this flavor.
Now, is there some person who's just sits around and just says, "I'm going to try this ingredient and that"?
I think my brother Bob does.
Okay,
that's what his job is. His job consists of purchasing. We purchase all of our fruit. All of our fruit most of our fruit's grown in the Pacific Northwest. Oregon, that kind of area. We have the best. So he does all those contracts, chocolate contracts, fruit contracts, and he's the one that kind of has a little bit of he has a science degree background, and so he's the one that understands and knows the process the best, probably out of my generation. So
gotcha. Now, black raspberry chip, that's the most famous, right?
Absolutely.
You're shaking your head. Why is that?
It's funny. The three of us, the three of us that run the business, it's absolutely not our favorite. Thank God we have it because we'd be nothing without it.
Right. I got to tell you though, I say it's my favorite, but I don't know if I've had any other many other flavors.
And that's the thing. There's so many good flavors, but people like yourself, that's they're afraid to veer. They're afraid to go off
that's
course.
Me too.
Yeah.
I get into such a routine with. I have the same thing for breakfast, literally every morning for years. Yeah. So, and I've had regular chocolate chip and mint chocolate, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So. I'm going to try some of the new stuff when it comes out then, I guess.
Absolutely. So we brought a couple things.
I know, which is a good move on your part. You always want to bring ice cream to the guy doing the interview
Absolutely.
here. So, now you guys have also added other things to the business, not just ice cream. How did that come about?
Sure.
What was the concept, the idea there?
So we always have had candy. I think my great grandmother made candy in the back of the house and sold it out the front also with ice cream. I think that was a pretty common combination back in the day. And then in the late 1950s, we noticed our business was kind of changing. It was kind of slowing down a little bit, and so they were trying to figure out what else they could add to the day part to get you sales, not just in the evening. So something that came along, I'll give you a little quiz here. Something came along in the 1950s that really changed our business model, really. And do you know what it might have been in the 50s?
The 50s?
I know it's way before your time, but it's before my time as well. But
it's not.
It's something so common.
TV.
Yeah, the TV came along, and it was in everybody's household all of a sudden. And those movie theaters, started to not be as popular. And so all of our stores that were next to movie theaters and so forth, we saw a definite dip in those years of sales and people coming in as much in the evenings. So we wanted to have all this day, you have from 8 a.m. or whatever until 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. So we wanted something to fill out that other day part. And so we started in the bakery business in the 1957, and we've continued on. And there was times when in the early 80s when bakery was as much or if not even a little bit more than ice cream in sales.
Really?
Yeah. Now it's I think we have the best. I love our bakery, and I'm a huge proponent of it. And today's National Donut Day, but
nice.
I should have brought some donuts. But
yeah.
but anyhow, it's a great product, but over the years and so forth, it's become it's a not a lot of profit margin in bakery and donuts, and they've got a 1-day shelf life, but we have a full line of bakery, donuts, danishes, coffee cakes, breads, all that stuff.
See, I go like in the bakery. I live out in Harrison. I go to that bakery. It's phenomenal. But I'm always like, God, this stuff they can keep on the shelf for like one day. And then that's
exactly.
It. Then it just goes home with somebody.
Well, it just goes back to the store. It goes off to Great Soup Kitchen, and so so it's. But I'm a huge. Well, look at me.
You are not like a huge guy.
I used to be.
But I mean, for a guy who runs an ice cream business, you're doing
rough.
Really good.
That's
got to be
really tough. I get up and go to work early in the morning. I'm at our Mount Auburn store every morning at 5:30, and I love donuts, man. And so it is so hard for me not to eat a donut almost every. I don't, but I want to.
Now, one thing that I think, I assume other companies do this, but to me it seems unique is you guys got a real good niche with selling your ice cream freezer packaged, right, on dry ice, excuse me. Because when I lived in Nashville and people wanted to send me a gift or something, 9 times out of 10 it was Graeter's ice cream in dry ice.
Yeah, so, well, thanks for
how
that.
How did that come to be?
So growing up, you could only get. We would pack it up for you at our factory. My dad and uncle worked every Sunday morning, and they'd have this cardboard, like 3 layers of cardboard, and they'd make these boxes, and they'd put like 6, 8, 10, 12 pints in this cardboard box, wrap it with a string. It was unbelievable, and they would guarantee it for 24 hours. And we did that all the way through the 80s, 90s, and I think probably in the 2000s. Early 2000s or very late 90s, we started using coolers, and that increased the length. You could go to 24 to 36 hours now, and that also allowed you to be able to ship ice cream. And so we started shipping ice cream in the 90s, and it's grown incredibly over the years. And last year was just an incredible time for.
Oh my God! Right?
Yeah.
So what was that like? I mean, you're shipping out. How much did you ship out last year compared to a normal year?
I don't know. That's not my part of the business. No, I know how much retail was.
I mean, 2 times as much, 3 times as much.
We absolutely doubled our sales, maybe even more in last year in terms of just that part of the business.
That part,
and it's not a huge part of the business, but it's saved us. I mean, that part of the business and our pint business that you get in the grocery stores, that saved us. Those 2 parts of the business, because retail, obviously, our stores, they were down considerably.
Of course.
But we kept on trucking, and so the ability to ship ice cream all over the country has been a huge thing for us over the last, at Christmas, 80% of it is done in the month of December. So
really,
yeah,
gotcha. So as we start to wrap up here, let me ask you this: what's the future of Graeter's? If you're obviously in charge of a lot of that, what do you want to do with the business? How do you want to grow it? What do you have to do to grow it?
Sure. Well, I think I'm in charge of the retail operation, and so I'm always, when I put on that hat and think about just that part of the business, I want to continue to slow growth. We're always looking for new stores, just slow growth, maybe move out of a store like we just did here in Kenwood and move it to a new beautiful store that we just built.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're always looking for in stores in Indy and other places that we have really good presence that have the opportunity for a larger footprint there. But so I think slow, controlled growth and improving our current stores that might need a refresh, some of those kinds of things. But I think, just keeping true to the brand and keeping, and trying to make it as the best it can be for the next generation. I think that's what's so important is we've brought in the next generation, the fifth generation, a little bit. They're all kind of college kids right now, a little bit, some a couple older than that. And it's kind of time for them to start showing up a little bit.
Showing up a little bit.
And I think if we can make this transition to this next generation better than we did when it was our time, I think that'll be
maybe
a huge
they won't need a
success.
business psychologist to get them through it.
Exactly.
And what is the challenge of? Because I know Mike LaRosa real well, and so same thing. They obviously want to grow, but there's a way to do it so you don't damage your brand. You don't do it too fast, because you could come out tomorrow and sell franchises all over the place, but that it would suffer. So how do you do that? Grow, but not too fast.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. We did have franchises. So my dad's generation, that was the big thing in the 80s. Okay, we're going to have a franchise. And so they had about 3 different franchisees. They were incredible. They did really well. Columbus market, and we've since over the last 10 years bought all the franchises back, and so it's all back in the family. But those guys did an incredible job of growing the brand and so forth. So I think franchises is not the way for us. For
See,
sure.
I got to be honest. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So there's no Rocky Boyman cannot buy a Graeter's ice cream and
not from us, at least, not from my
right.
brother, cousin, and I.
Okay, so
but who knows what the next? I mean, maybe that'll come back around, and that'll be the big thing. I don't know, but it's been much better now that we have it under control. It's just everything. It's a better experience. It's a better product. It's a better way to do business for us.
Yeah, agreed. But I would imagine that someone who owns a franchise, yes, they care about it, but they don't have 100 years of family involved in it. They want to make money, right? So that's where a little corner here, a little corner there, maybe not as much chocolate, whatever, that kind of thing, right?
Absolutely. So for us, franchising is not the model. For some other places, it obviously works great, but for us, we're happy to keep it a family business.
Well, Chip, you do a great job. Obviously, our family loves it. Everybody's family around here loves it, and it is, as I said, on the Mount Rushmore of Cincinnati food staples, man. So we appreciate all you do, and thanks for coming on the Heavy Hitters podcast, man.
Thanks so much for having me, Rocky. I really appreciate it.
All right.